This podcast is for women who are already established, women who know they're capable, but can feel the gap between who they truly are and how they've been operating. This is a show about power, identity, and the exact shifts that elevate how you lead, decide, and sell without performing or chasing or molding. I'm Dr. Sonja Adzovic. This is I Have a Story for You. Most high-performing women believe one thing almost religiously. If I just work harder, I'll outgrow this. I believed that too. I've lived in different cities, and I've watched myself become almost a different woman in each one. When I lived in Toronto, I was relentless. I worked like a machine. I felt unstoppable. Like if I wanted something, I could and would move mountains to get it. But it was high performance inside a high pressure system. It just wasn't sustainable. My body eventually told me that. Now in Belgrade, something else happened. I softened. I slowed. I had space to grow out of certain childhood patterns. But I also became more lethargic, less sharp in my ambition. And then in Scotland, at a retreat surrounded by brilliant, expansive women, I felt something click again. Not manic productivity, but expansion, possibility. So you see, it's the same woman, but different environments, completely different output. What I didn't understand for a long time was that environment doesn't negotiate with willpower. Your environment shapes your output. It shapes your nervous system. It shapes what feels normal. And once I saw that, I stopped asking how to be stronger and started asking, what system was I operating inside? I've personally seen the effects that environment can have on women. I've seen really extraordinary, very capable women placed in these low stimulating environments and then kind of just wither away. But also seen the opposite. I've seen somewhat mediocre women placed in high stimulating environments and then become even more extraordinary and even more capable. The thing is that we can't fight against our environment. We think that we're so strong, that we're so tough, and we are. But there are certain things that we can't outplay, outmaneuver, or outwork. So for a long time, we've known the effect between nature and our mental health and physical health. But only recently have we discovered the connection between our environment and our successes and failures, directly contradicting the narrative of just work harder to succeed. There's more to it. So going back to nature and our physical and mental health. So starting in the 1960s, the connection between nature and our human psyche was starting to be officially researched. And a term called ecopsychology was formed. And this is a field of study related to the interconnectedness between nature, our human psyche, and our mind. So it's the interconnectedness between all of these. And essentially what this field looked into and what it posited is that connection with the natural world is crucial for our emotional and psychological well-being. Now, does the research support this? Absolutely. So there are, the research has shown that there are mental, emotional, behavioral, and cognitive and physical health benefits of spending time in nature. And the opposite is true. There are detrimental effects to a lack thereof. So, in one of the largest research studies of this nature, it was in Denmark, studying over 1 million people, that found that living in spaces that are low green spaces, which means that they don't have a lot of greenery around them. So living in low green spaces resulted in a 55% increased risk of developing depression, anxiety, and schizophrenia. Now, the opposite is also true. Those who live in or spend time in green places or blue places, so this is bodies of water, rivers, seas, lakes, oceans, experienced health benefits. So, for example, decreased stress, decreased depression, decreased anxiety, but also better mood, better attention, and better cognitive function, okay? And also there are effects on our immune system. Spending time in green places and blue places has an effect on our immune system by decreasing our cortisol, decreasing our blood pressure, heart rate, increasing natural killer cells, which are a type of cells in our immune system, which are very important to battling certain pathogens that we encounter, all of which together show the story that green places and blue places, when we spend time with them, increase our immune system. So here we see the mental, physical, emotional, behavioral, and cognitive benefits of spending time in green places. And this isn't just one study from one place. This is universal. We've seen this research replicated in New Zealand, Japan, Denmark, all over the world. Now, here's the thing. This is a fairly easy fix, right? You just go spend more time in nature. It's been shown that even, 10 minutes a day spent in green places will be beneficial. So, on your way home from work, you can stop by a forest and spend 10 minutes in there. This is a really easy fix. But what about the effect that your environment plays on your productivity, your success, and your failure? Here we are talking about the people that you are surrounded by on a day-to-day basis. That's not quite so simple anymore. And research confirms that your peers in some contexts determine up to 95% of your success or failure. 95%. And this is shown in multiple research studies. Now, the thing is, why are we going to go through them? To understand how this works. When we understand the research, we understand how things work, and we're then able to better apply it to our lives. So one of the most interesting and research studies that has gained a lot of momentum recently is the spillover effect that we've seen by the Kellogg School of Management. And here we see proximity. So we've seen, or rather the research showed that if you're sitting within 25 feet, that is around 7.6 meters for my metric friends like me, to a high performer, so you're just sitting within, up to 8 meters, basically, to them, your performance, your productivity will increase by 15%. And this research showed that in a company setting, this will result in 1 million increased annual profits for the company. Just by that 15% increase, your productivity sitting within 8 meters of a high performer. So again, you're just sitting, you're not necessarily interacting. But here's the thing, the opposite is also true. If you're sitting close, or if you're within the proximity of a low performer, this will affect your performance and will decrease your productivity and your performance by 30%. Now, what's super interesting to me is that while you needed to be within 25 feet to a high performer to have it affect you, there's no radius to a low performer. They could be 50 feet away, as long as they're kind of like within eyesight, they're there, that will affect you. Now, obviously, if they're in another building, you don't even see them, you don't even know them, that won't affect you. But if they're on the floor, that will have an effect on you. And that directly contradicts something that we often think like, oh, if we just ignore them, I won't talk to that toxic person. I just won't interact with them. I'll set those boundaries. That's great, but that's not enough. They will still have an effect on you. They can decrease your performance by 30% just by being somewhere in your vicinity, and there's no radius that will keep you safe. There's no distance that will keep you safe. Now, what is really interesting is that we've seen this across many industries. So this isn't something that we studied only in psychology, and the results were positive there. But this has been studied in all different industries. So, for example, this one was in the Kellogg School of Management. So here we're talking about business and management. But we've also seen it in cadets. So we've seen this in the Army. We've seen this in medicine. We've seen this in all different industries. This is a universal effect that is happening. So wherever you are, whatever industry you're in, this will have an effect on you. Working hard is not the only thing that is affecting your ability to succeed, to move forward, to get that raise, to get to that level of influence, to that position of influence that you are working to get to. Another thing that we've seen, so in Air Force cadets, now Air Force cadets are broken down into, so you have a group of them, and they're broken down into little groups of 30 called squadrons. And they noticed that there's a lot of variability with their level of fitness between the squadrons, but within a squadron, there's basically no variability. So even though all of them have the same training regimen, the same fitness, the same recovery time and everything, between the squadrons, so between these groups, there's a lot of variability. And they were thinking, okay, why? Why within these 30 people, if they're all super fit, they're all super fit. But if they're all super, in another one, not so fit, they're all not so fit. Why is there this variability between groups, but not within a group? Like it doesn't make sense when you first think about it. But then they found that actually makes a lot of sense, that how fit, right, the success of this group is determined by the motivation of the least fit person in the group. Now, I know as soon as I'm saying this, like I know you're thinking of that person in school that was, the least academically inclined, or that person at work who never really wants to work. And you're thinking about them. So absolutely. So it's the motivation of the least fit person in the group. So if the least fit person is motivated to improve, that enthusiasm spreads and the whole group improves. But the opposite is true as well. If the least fit person is apathetic, lethargic, it brings the whole group down. Just as one person in a group of 30 people has that much of an effect. Okay? And so we also see a similar phenomenon in medicine and air pilots. So in medicine, for cardiac surgeons perform this type of procedure called CABG. It's a bypass surgery. And they saw, that certain surgeries were more successful than others. And they wanted to see if there's a pattern. And what is the determining factor? Is it the number of years of experience of the surgeon, the number of years of experience of the whole team together? Is it what time of day? They looked at all these factors to see what determines the likelihood that a surgery will be successful, this CABG surgery will be successful. And they thought originally that the most important factor of whether surgeries will be successful is, of course, the number of years of experience that the surgeon has. The more experienced a surgeon is, the more successful the likelihood of the surgery will be. But actually, there was something that was 3 times more important than the years of experience of the main surgeon.
It was actually the familiarity of the team. So how often that whole team had worked together had a 3 times more impact on the success of the surgery than all of the years of the surgeon's experience. And the same thing with in air travel. 73% of air traffic accidents happen when the pilot and the first officer are working together for the first time. There's that lack of familiarity that results in accidents. Now, when we're in an office setting, we do have a little bit of space for error, but in industries and fields like medicine and air travel, the margin for error, the possibility for error is zero. Errors, mistakes result in lives lost. So the importance of this is extraordinary. Now, why are all these things happening? Why does our environment have such an effect on us? Why is it that when we work with people we don't know, success goes down? Why is it that when we're just in the vicinity of a low performer, our performance goes down? We don't even have to interact with them. Why are all these things happening? So neuroscience tells us there's kind of 3 main reasons. There's many more, and they're quite interconnected. But the 3 main reasons are, first, we have mirror neurons. So these are specialized neurons that allow us to quite literally mirror certain actions of other people. They have an evolutionary social benefit throughout all these years, allowing us to learn faster and be socially in certain groups. Okay, so allows us to mirror. Second thing is social contagion. This is where emotions and behaviors spread quickly through a group. So social contagion is where behaviors, emotions, and attitudes, remember the importance of an attitude, spread fairly quickly through crowds or groups of people. And there's many mechanisms to this, and one of the mechanisms is the mirror neurons that we just talked about. So imitation, social conformity, and suggestibility all play a role in this behavior and attitudes and emotions spreading through a group of people. And the last one is familiarity. We saw this with the surgeons and the pilots, right? When we are surrounded by people we are familiar with, we are kind of jiving, we are vibing, we have a rhythm of how we are working together. If it is positive, it works really, really well and allows us to be even more productive, right? That familiarity is taken away if there is somebody, again, who's a low performer, who is lethargic, right? That takes away the benefits of the familiarity. But if we are all high performers and there's familiarity, that increases our success and our productivity. So what have we talked about here? The narrative to work hard is one we've all learned growing up. And it's an attractive one because it tells us then that our fate, our success is in our own hands. We have control over our fate and our success and how far we can go. And it's one that has gotten you to where you are now. It does work, that work hard. But it gets to a point when it's capped, when that work hard is actually hurting you. Because science tells us, and perhaps in your own experience, science tells us a different story, that there's actually more things affecting your success and your failure, up to 95% affecting. So the people we surround ourselves by has up to a 95% effect on our successes and our failures. So here we've seen that our environment has an effect on our mental, physical, emotional health. and our cognitive abilities. And then also through the people that we surround ourselves by, it affects our ability to show up in a way that is necessary for us to achieve and move forward and do all the extraordinary things that we want to do. So if the law of the environment tells us that who we are surrounded by has such a disproportionate effect on our success and our failure, why is it that we are still telling ourselves that we can outwork anything? That if we just work hard enough, we will succeed at whatever we want to do, when we clearly see that there's much more to it, that almost the system is rigged against us, in the sense that we are a product of who we are surrounded by. And this is something that I look at with women in my advisory sessions. Why is it that so many women think that they can outwork these laws of nature, when really by looking at the situation accurately, by being able to look at how things stand accurately with their environment, with everything going on, they're able to make better decisions to move them to where they actually want to go.